living longer, living healthier, living better than ever before. Welcome to Mountain Pacific's Healthy Living for Life, a weekly series that gives you the information, education, and expert insight you need to become an active participant in today's ever-changing healthcare climate. Here now is today's program host.
Deciding to be physically active is one of the most important decisions we can make for our health. Physical exercise is great for our mental well-being as well and can help us stay independent as we age. Welcome to Healthy Living for Life, a show dedicated to helping you do just that. I'm your host, Colleen Roylance. Today we'll look at practical ways we can bring physical fitness into our daily routines. Stay with us. Welcome back to Healthy Living for Life. Today we're joined by Mary Bushkuhl, who is a owner, personal trainer, and instructor at Mary's Fitness in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Mary, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you.
I am excited to hopefully inspire people to get moving.
Hey, that's what it's all about, right? Especially as we age. Yes. So, let's put something to rest right as we get started, Mary. For older adults, is it safe to exercise?
Unless your doctor tells you otherwise that you should not exercise, movement and physical activity are ultra important, especially as we get older.
So what about folks who might be afraid of, or maybe they're even at risk of falling? Does physical activity increase the risk of falling?
Actually, it is very important for people who are at risk of falling to get into a program that focuses on fall prevention. In other words, there are actually programs out there to teach you how to, if you do fall, they teach you how to be able to get up off of the ground again. If you fall, it is imperative to be able to physically get yourself up, because as we age, your mortality rate increases if you can't get up off the floor. So, I've worked with dozens of people, older individuals who've had knee replacement, hip replacement, shoulder replacements, back surgeries, who don't want to get on the floor. And I'm like, well, what if you fall? And I said, you've got to know how to get up. So it is imperative that people who are at risk of falling learn how to prevent falling, and if they do fall, how to get back up.
That's a really good point. And I think it brings me to my next question, and that is, as an older adult, is it okay for me to do any exercise I feel okay doing, or are there some limits that I should be aware of?
Well, as a human being, or as human beings, we do a great job of limiting ourselves in physical exercise or physical activity. So the hard part is getting you and motivating you to actually do exercise. And what I usually tell people when as we get older, I'm 60, and I want to maintain my functional fitness. I want to be able to do activities of daily living. I want to be able to stay independent for as long as possible. And if any of those things are reasons that you want to stay at, then physical activity is a must.
I think that's really important, and of course, there are a lot of folks out there who would like to perhaps shed some weight. And so can you talk to us a little bit about, for those seniors who don't need to lose any weight, what are the benefits for them?
Well, as we age, once you hit age 30, then everything starts to go downhill. So if you are now in your 60s or 70s, boy, and you haven't done anything, you're looking at a hard hill to climb, I guess you could say. But as we age, if we don't use our bodies effectively, we accelerate the loss of bone, muscle mass, our reaction time slows down, our hearts and lungs lose strength and stamina and efficiency. And if you want to reverse any of those, then it is important to get moving and to target ways of improving wherever you want to. Like if you've already had bone loss and muscle mass loss, then you should be focusing on strength training, that kind of thing. And we'll get to that later on in the program.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really good point that you make, because bone and joint health is very important as we get older. But let's shift gears for just a moment and talk a little bit about the mental benefits of exercise, in addition to the physical benefits. What are some of the mental benefits?
Well, a lot of people deal with depression, and studies have shown that using physical activity, aerobic exercise, actually works more effectively than medication on helping you deal with depression. So if that is huge. But what's really important to remember is that not only does it help you mentally, but also it helps your focus. And every time you get out there and do anything that is active, your brain releases 4 important chemicals: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Dopamine, D; oxytocin, O; serotonin, S; and endorphins, E. You need to take your dose every day.
I like that. I like that a lot, Mary. Speaking of your brain and some of those chemicals, there's some conflicting information out there about the best time of day to exercise. And before we take our first break today, I wonder if you can talk to us a little bit about the time of day to exercise. For example, exercising at night, does it disrupt sleep?
One thing that I always tell people is that exercising during the day or any time during the day is pretty much a personal preference. I am a morning person. If you ask me to do anything after 2 p.m., you're not going to get much from me. I go hard from 3:30 in the morning, and then 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I start fading fast. But if I am going to do any kind of exercise later in the day, I'd rather do something that's not as strenuous, like yoga or stretching. But if you are not a morning person, midday might be best. If you're a night owl, working out at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening might be okay because you're not going to sleep till 11 or 12. So you have to find what is best for you.
Thanks, Mary.
Does that seem to answer it for you?
Yeah, that gives us a lot of great options, and I think to do what's best for you is what's going to work. So we're going to take a quick break, Mary, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about how we can start an exercise program, even if it's been a long time since we last exercised. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're still talking with Mary about fitness and how we can build that into our daily routines. And we wanted to talk about how we can get started. So Mary, for those who haven't exercised in a long time or maybe never, how can we get started and how often should we exercise?
Okay, well, from my standpoint, I'm going to let Gary cut that. Okay. It is important to maybe reach out to an exercise professional because if you have some issues going on orthopedically or cardiovascularly, it's important to have somebody who understands that. Using a personal trainer or a physical therapist might be the best way to start. And when you do start exercising, a good goal would be to accumulate 120 to 180 minutes per week, which breaks down to 30 minutes 3 times a week to 30 minutes 6 times a week. So, or you can do 20, 20, 20, 20, but it's important to try to accumulate that amount of activity during the week.
That's a nice goal to shoot for, and I think that's really helpful for those who might be just starting out. And for those who are just starting out, what kind of precautions should we consider since we haven't exercised in a long time?
Okay. Well, first things first, and that is talk to your doctor. It's important that your doctor knows that you're wanting to make this or start out on this kind of journey. Usually doctors are ecstatic that somebody wants to start to exercise. And in talking with doctors, they are always asking me, how do you teach a person to get up off the floor? Because that is the number one reason why ambulances are called, is to come and get somebody up off the floor who's fallen and they haven't figured out how to get up. So definitely talk to your physician.
And as we talk to our physician, are there specific questions that you would recommend we ask?
I would ask, okay, what are some limitations that you see that I should consider? The medications that I'm taking, what should I be aware of with those? Do you have any recommendations for a personal trainer or a physical therapist who can help get me started?
Those are really great questions. And if we start exercising and perhaps start feeling some pain after we've talked with our doctor, what should we do then?
It's important that you stop exercising if you do have pain. Call your doctor, and then your doctor, especially if it's physical orthopedic kind of pain, it's the doctor might be able to recommend or write you a prescription for seeing a physical therapist who can then assess what's going on and then provide you with the exercises to build up to where you can then start on your own again.
That's great advice. You know, we talked, you mentioned earlier that we're all very good at limiting our exercise and physical activity. For those folks who maybe can't get to a gym because gym memberships are expensive, or maybe they don't have the transportation, are there ways that we can exercise without having to go to a gym?
One of the best things to do is to figure out what you need. And what I mean by that is if you have strength loss or bone loss, muscle loss, maybe getting on YouTube and learning some strength training exercises. If you lack stamina, getting out there and walking in the mall, especially this time of year. I wouldn't go outside right now. It's blizzard conditions here. But walking, climbing, I mean, if you can't even get out of the house, if you have a flight of stairs, walk up the stairs, turn around, walk back down. So you do have things available. If you don't have stairs, can you set up a track inside your house where you can walk laps? So there are options there. Learning how to stretch. YouTube is great. Even television shows offer exercise programs, but finding something that caters to the older adult.
So really no special fitness clothing or equipment is necessary to get started?
No, what I usually tell people is make sure to wear loose-fitting clothing that does not restrict your movement. So you can wear stretchy jeans if you want to. I see a lot of older adults who come in to work out in jeans, and that's okay. But you got to be able to not be restricted in your movement.
Okay. Thank you. So we have just a quick minute left, and I'd like to talk a little bit about those folks who maybe don't go to a gym and don't have an instructor, and they're worried about doing it wrong. What would you say to them?
If If it doesn't hurt, if the movement doesn't hurt, then keep doing it. If the movement hurts, then stop doing it and possibly reach out and get some help. Again, usually doctors can refer you to a physical therapist to at least help you get past whatever pain you're feeling at that time.
That's great. Thanks, Mary. Really appreciate all that good information. And we are going to go ahead and take another break, Mary. So stay with us, though, because we've got a lot more questions for you. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about how we can customize an exercise program for those with special needs. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're still here talking with Mary about exercise, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we can customize an exercise program for specific needs. Mary, for those folks who might have arthritis or joint pain or limited mobility, are there specific exercises they should focus on?
Well, it's important to just move and to find ways of movement, but walking, water exercise, taking stretching classes. Strength training is important, even though you might have arthritic conditions, because if you can make the muscles stronger, it's going to help the joints. Learning exercises for balance, coordination, agility, and endurance.
You know, you mentioned some water aerobics and taking classes. If I want to go to a gym and I want to take classes, how can I find the classes that are right for me and my skill level? For example, do I need to know how to swim if I do water aerobics?
It is not required to know how to swim to do water aerobics because most aerobics classes take place in water that's maybe 3 feet deep. So pretty much it's like chest high, chest level. And so you really don't need that. Water exercise is good to get you to move. But if you're wanting to increase your muscle mass, increase your bone mass, try to decrease body fat, you got to get out of the pool.
Well, that's interesting. So that brings us to strength training, because that's good for bone health. Strength training can be kind of tricky. How can we make sure that we're doing it safely if we're just learning?
The big thing is to do it slowly. Older adults have a tendency to want to rush through everything. If you can just slow down the repetitions that you're doing, you're actually going to prevent injury. Even if you're doing it wrong a little bit, as long as you go through it more slowly, it's going to help.
And for those, you said we need to get out of the pool. For those of us who might be looking to shed a few pounds, a few pandemic pounds, holiday pounds,
yes,
is aerobic exercise the best way to do that?
Most people think that aerobic exercise is the best way to burn the fat. But strength training, resistance training is the way to go, because it's the strength and resistance training that is going to build muscle. And it's the muscle that burns calories that then burns more fat. So yes, aerobic exercise helps, but the key is resistance training, strength training.
Well, that's very interesting, and that's something I did not know. So that's very helpful. As we're talking about these exercises, are there exercises that older adults should avoid?
Again, go to your doctor or ask your doctor or pharmacist, because usually medications are what limit us. I've had adults that I've worked with who have macular degeneration, so they cannot put their head below their waist because that's too much pressure on the eyes. There are exercises that you have to prevent, but they all have to do with what's going on with you personally. So I can't give you these are not good exercises to do. and because I don't know your history. But sit-ups, of course, are not good for you. So eliminate the sit-ups if you're doing them.
Oh, good, because I hate doing sit-ups, so I'm happy to eliminate those. Thanks, Mary. It is interesting.
Got my permission.
Thank you. It is interesting that you bring up the pharmacist, though. That's a care provider I would not have thought of asking for some advice.
Mm-hmm. So yes, they know you better than your doctor as far as with your medications.
Sure, that makes sense. So for those who might have really limited mobility and maybe need to increase their physical activity but need to be in a bed or they use a wheelchair, are there good exercises that they can be doing?
There are, and usually a person who is wheelchair bound or limited because of having to stay in bed or be in a chair. Again, I really strongly encourage you to talk to your doctor and get a prescription to talk with a physical therapist. They would be the best way for you to move into a more active life because being bedridden or not being able to move as much, there are specific things that you can do to strengthen your posture, the muscles that hold you in good posture. That's huge because as we get older, we have a tendency to start slumping and not having the strength to sit up straight or stand up straight. So again, go to your doctor, get a prescription to a physical therapist because that's going to help.
Thank you so much. Mary, thanks for joining us. It's been great.
Oh, well, thank you.
And thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll join us again next week. Until then, stay fit, stay well, and stay healthy for life with Healthy Living for Life. Thanks, everyone.
Healthy Living for Life is brought to you by Mountain Pacific Quality Health in partnership with AARP Montana. We'd love to hear from you. If you have suggestions for future programs, visit our website at mpqhf.org or call us at 406-443-4020. You can also catch us on YouTube by visiting our website and clicking on the Healthy Living for Life logo. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions.